Yeah, so we're talking about the moon, right, Christian? And
Yeah,
we were talking about, you know, people that do moon ceremonies and Wiccans and spiritualists and all these people that call in different powers. And I was saying, and you tended to agree with me, that most people actually don't know what they're doing. They don't know the higher plane of consciousness. So you were saying something about intent.
yeah. Well, when when you cast a spell or do a ceremony or project an intention, it's like it's valid what they are doing. It's not necessarily a bad thing or an evil thing. But do you really need to go about it that way?
Well, I think that's a good
And
question.
maybe in the past, like Gigi Young always speaks, like there are things that were valid in the past and are not necessarily valid right now. So what was cool and beneficial 1,000 years ago may not be, you know, the same today because things change and everything evolves. And if you get stuck into doing something from the past, it can actually be detrimental.
Hmm. Well, yeah, but that's what I
And
was.
in the way the Wiccans they work with deities and let's call them entities, and they offer things. And I remembered, doing that myself in another lifetime. So, and it wasn't. I don't remember anything bad about it or evil about it, and you know, but I don't feel like doing it this time around. So that's my personal take on it.
Well, I agree with you, and I'm definitely in that same, let's say, mind because, you know, it just is, I've always determined that I don't want to be part of group ceremonies. And I've seen enough, like even in yoga classes or meditation, group meditations, especially I would imagine in doing old ceremonies, is that there's other things in the unseen, right? And
Yeah,
so,
but being a Wiccan is not usually related to group ceremonies, except for the equinox or the solstice or whatever when they gather. But otherwise, it's like you have on your altar and you have your bowls and your plants and so you're kind of alone with your deities. And but let me tell you this, and I know you are doing and I'm doing, but I know for sure you are smudging the house. See, that's like something like a spell, or you put an intent in the burning of the sage, and that smoke and your intent, you know, go together. So that's kind of like casting a spell, right? So it's not bad. It's not,
well, I
and you
mean,
are doing it.
I sometimes, not that often. I mean, there's just an occasional I'll get a feeling like I should just smudge my house. And but more, well, where I really want to talk about is, well, let's go back to the moon for a moment, okay? Because I brought it up, you asked me, and we kind of laughed about it. And, you know, there was a couple things that I said to you. One was I was told very clearly, take back the moon. And I was also told very clearly to swallow the moon. And, you know, these aren't just like, oh, passing thoughts. They've stuck with me for years, right? So it's a deeper meditation on my part, or contemplation, I should say, of why did I hear that? What is the importance of that or the impact? And so the last couple of weeks, and we've had this big full moon right now, um, I just have always had, and this goes to Alejandro too, because he one time asked me in a moment, he said, view the moon right now. What do you see? And what I did perceive was like a parabolic dish, like it was like a lens, like it was a device. I don't want to call it like tech or anything, but maybe it is, that was literally like taking human consciousness and whatever was going on within the human mass psyche or mass consciousness and creating it here on the earth plane. And so what you're saying about old ceremonies, trying to bring things from the past back in, it's not the right time. And the best I can determine for myself anyways, is that a pure state of consciousness is actually connected with the creator, the light of the creator. And you can put that into the sun if you want. And so it's not working with your personal intent. It's being the whole in a way, like you're being directed by a much higher consciousness than our current brains can compute. So I've just, I think I've talked to you about it before. It's like I don't even like to work with intent because I don't know where the intent comes from. We can say peace on earth or whatever, but I don't think that's it. I think we're in a time now when our consciousness is going to rise into a state of purity and connectionness, and therefore we're part of it. And all we really have to do is be that part of it. Does that make sense? Oh, it does.
Yeah, it does, but you can work with intent, like work with the universe and let the universe project something through you.
Mm-hmm.
And and then you use that wholeness and focus it on a specific endeavor, like go do something or don't do something, or so intent on itself doesn't mean that you're trapped in your ego, that
Okay.
you're separated from the universe and you can have an intent, you can have a wish, or you can focus on something, and that can be in harmony with everything, right? That doesn't have to be separated.
Well, I think prayer is probably a good example of that. Like, how do people pray? Right? So that's where you can use your, let's say, your critical observational of yourself and your intent. Because let's say somebody's sick and you want them better, right? So you have the intent to pray for them to help alleviate their pain or their suffering. And there's a slight, like, how do I say it? Let me try to put the right words to it. Like any human, compassionate human being would want to alleviate suffering in others and animals and in the very land. I mean, that's what I'm working on right now, is like working on the land here, on the energetic field of it. But if you just if you come to the realization that you are created by a creator, and so you become that creator in your prayer. In other words, the mind doesn't really know what is the right outcome. And there's much more power in that than just saying, let's say, rosaries, or you're so upset that somebody else is suffering that you just, you're praying to a God outside of you that you want that God to help that person. I mean,
Yeah.
I did quite a bit.
If you're thinking like semantics, I didn't actually resonated with your created by the creator, because that's kind of old religion kind of more like you are part of the creation. We are part of the creator. That's like, I mean, I know it's just words, but,
no, but
you're not created by anybody. You're
right,
not,
I am the
mother,
creation.
you're, yeah, I mean, because it's such a huge slippery slope to admit and to think and to feel that there is a creator and you are created by somebody, by some entity, or by, I mean,
right.
that opens up so many, yeah.
I mean, for me, creator and creation and spirit are co-eternal. In other words, they always were and always will be. So, and that's very difficult for the human mind and the human going through human experience to actually be that, because we're always being pulled off into emotional responses or worries about the world or our finances or any number of things. I mean, I'm looking out the window right now at trees and a foggy sky, and I'm like, that feels like it's outside of me, right? Because I am the one looking at it. I'm looking at the dude looking out the window. He wants birds. um, and yet it's always there, right? So, and then we can get into like anybody that is I am conscious, like we're only aware of a very small part of that at any given moment.
Is there a dog barking?
That's my dog barking.
Yeah.
What do you want, Angel? Huh? What? You want to say hi to Christy? Say hi. Hi.
Hi, doggy.
He has a ball now. Oh my God. And he's in love with his ball. So the first thing I get this morning, he's got the ball in his mouth and he's like pushing on my leg, like, throw it for me, throw it for me. And I'm like, let the sun come up, okay?
So he's a dog. He's definitely a dog.
100%. Yeah. He's total dog, which is cool. Like there's something that, not because we decided it, not because we thought it was a good idea, not because we read it anywhere else, we would have, or we say, let's sit.
Yep.
And how often do people just sit? I can feel the energy transpiring with us.
So why did you say that people usually only feel a small part of creation? Like,
well,
I don't think that's true.
Maybe the right way of saying it, are unaware of it. They're unaware that they're feeling it. They're unaware that they're picking up things. They're unaware, and you can get into the idea of retrocausality. You can get into the idea of time is not a linear thing. We didn't start out at point A and we're going to end up at point Z. So as I'm talking to you right now, there's all of me present, but I'm focused on talking to you right now. So I'm not aware. I mean, we can't be, I mean, if we were aware right now of all of our lives and everything that went on and the past wars and the past destructions, you know, it's there.
Yeah, but in the end, it's like what's important is the evolution of us as individuals and evolution of humanity. So if people are having fun being more trapped in their ego for a while, like maybe a lifetime or 1,000 lifetimes, then that's their fun. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
No, I mean, I've said it so many times to so many people, and it took it was not easy for me to get to the place that I speak to right now, because it's like meeting so many people, and I do see people all the time. It and I could see through them in a way, and like I could see what they were doing and their ego and their self-sabotage and the blocks, the obstacles they made for themselves, basically, is what it is. And to get to the place of saying, I don't know, it's okay, I can love you. I can just be here with you. I can observe you. I don't know your path. And I don't know in any detail all the things that I went through in different lifetimes, nor can I even really say why this lifetime's so different for me. Like I'm often, I don't know what the right word is. It's not surprised. I guess I'm in wonder. I'm in wonder of like, this I am having had these experiences in this lifetime and the gifts I've been given. I'm like, I just have to accept it. I mean, I can't put it into any form of like, oh, you really deserve this. You must have done your work in the past lives, right? um, I just don't see it that way. And yet I'm very aware that the trajectory of this particular life has brought me to moments of realization, peace, actually, to be able to feel a lot of peace in my life, not get perturbed by others and other things and events.
Yeah, I try to, try to catch you off guard from time to time, like do things that can irritate you or trigger you, just to see what's, like a cat.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs a trickster in their life, don't they? I mean, how would you ever know? you know? But I know that about you. I mean, I've always been aware of that, but it's like, and it served me, because let's just, even in the here and now, let's say
when goodness
like,
is lost, there is morality.
Right now.
When morality is lost, there is ritual.
Right? Well,
Ritual is the husk of true faith, the beginning of chaos.
Always right there. So maybe I have some feelings about it, but they don't drive me, and they don't change what I'm presently doing or contemplating. So that's where the difference between feeling and emotional responses. An emotional response would be, oh my God, what did I do? Or, oh my God, how can I live without this person? Or, just like, it was like losing Misty was so sad for me. My cat, not my cat, the wolf cat. And And yet there was this flow to the losing her, the sadness, the tears, the burying her. And there's this whole process of just being with that. And that's the thing about death. You know, in the physical, you can't change that. And so it comes to this flow of the ultimate letting go and realizing that's also part of this reality we're living in, is the births and the deaths, the comings, the goings. You know, and I know people are very, very distraught when they lose an animal or somebody they know.
What do you think of Ukraine?
Of what?
Of Ukraine, the war in Ukraine.
We're going to change subjects here. Okay.
No, it's not. I'm not changing
Well, you
the same
posted,
subject.
I was going to ask you, you posted that video of the redemption documentary. And I was watching it, but because it's got subtitles, I didn't quite finish it. And I was going to ask you why you posted that particularly.
Because I find it so real and so full of, you know, energy and everything. War on itself, it's such a, can be so devastating. But I feel from a spiritual point of view can be such a catalyst to all the parts involved.
Yeah.
And I think these people that are dying every day, everything happens for a reason, right? So I think there is a weird sense of fun, if you can put it like that, in a war or fighting in a war, like the adrenaline and everything is like all your senses are heightened to the max. And, you know, and then being killed, it's like maybe next time around, or it's a good lesson for you, for somebody in that situation. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some of them or a lot of those people could have avoided being in a war if they really wanted to. I'm sure not all of them, but, and of course there are like foreign mercenaries that they definitely didn't belong there, so they choose to go in, and then you go in and you die, and you went through all that trauma, and that's actually good for them, because they should have known better from a spiritual point of view. Why I'm from Poland, or I'm from, you know, England or wherever, why would I go fight, you know, a war in a foreign country? Like, and that's why they went for this adrenaline rush, for this, you know, because war on itself can have an allure, can have an attraction for some people.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've contemplated past wars. I've actually remembered being in, you know, a war when it was like battle axes and swords, and you're meeting somebody on the field, and you're right. It's because in that moment, life becomes the only thing, right? It's the fullness of it, right? And you're fighting to the death. And there is a huge Russian, a huge one. The thing that's so shocking, I guess.
Remember your friends had, I don't remember their name, but there was like that gay guy, and he had, and they remembered they were like Roman soldiers, and they died together like 2,000 years ago, and that instance was so powerful when they died, that energy rush, that they actually found each other, and they feel attracted. That's what I mean. I mean, war by itself, it means a lot more than just dying, going there and dying. And I'm pretty sure I went through my lifetimes when I went through war and died on the battlefield, and I would be pretty bummed if I didn't, if I went through all this series of lives and I never once experienced a battlefield, like either with swords or with First World War or whatever. I don't feel like the need right now, or probably in the future, to experience that, but it's something that has to be experienced, in my opinion.
Yeah, the stark thing, and this is like the reason that documentary is a good one, right? I did go on to Quora or Reddit or wherever you had the link, and listening to people talking about it and debunking it and blah 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 blah, getting it all political, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is that, can you view that and see what's happening? But see, we don't have war with honor any longer. That's all been taken away from the military by the mercenaries, by the degradation of the militaries. I mean, it's a meat grinder on the front lines. And so,
that happened in the past.
Huh?
That happened in the past. These meat grinders did happen in any point of history, so it's not something new. Like if you read Caesar or whatever.
So why do men go to war at the behest of their rulers? Why?
Because they don't know any better.
They think they're going to get honor or glory. I mean, aren't they promised things in the afterlife?
Come on, you understand why?
No,
I have to. I mean, you don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just putting it out there in a verbal sense of, like, if people think about it and sit with it and feel through it, but perhaps this is part of what's going on right now, is that, like you were saying earlier, there's an evolutionary aspect of what's happening, and so people talk about ascension and higher realms and all sorts of things, and yet we don't really know what goes on there either. So I can't, in my present mind, even imagine. Well, I can in a way, that's not true. But what type of reality will we find ourselves in? Will there be war?
Mean in the future or when you ascend?
Either way, I mean, if we go back to our original thing, it's like all here right now, right? So, yeah. I mean, other reality.
Well, if you read the Bible, like if you read the Bible or other holy books, even angels are caught in these wars with demons, and I mean, but that tells you about the level of awareness of whoever came up with that. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, just whatever anyone thinks of, recorded history, or, certainly the Romans and certainly the Greeks, and, they all have the Norse, I mean, warring gods, battles in heaven, it's an interesting thing to contemplate. I mean, I'm not going to try to present an answer for it, just posing it as a contemplation. And perhaps there is a breakthrough point where that's no longer the reality. And yet you can look at the human psyche throughout time and see, well, it's all been war. War and peace, war and peace, war and peace.
Yeah, that's our level of awareness. So, and it's not going to change, anytime soon, because change happens in increments. It's not gonna just be a huge leap, so there are gonna be wars in the next century, and God knows, if we're ever gonna be at war with some alien species. I mean, I don't think this war on itself is going to stop anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Nor it should, because it's such a good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you ask me why men go to war. Apart from the programming that was always present, even in the Greek times, Sparta was so much better than Athens. I mean, every city, republic, had their propaganda, we are the best. And so that was, and then in the Roman Empire, there was this huge, they were like a military-oriented society, kind of like the United States is right now, but even more. So it was assumed, since you were a child, it was assumed that, you either going to be a soldier or a commander, and actually a lot of men, I feel, wanted to understand something about them about going to war is the ultimate thing. Can I do it? Can I do this? Do I have the courage? Can I, and the high, the thrill of taking a life, which can be, after that can be traumatic, but so it's that understanding of who you are that's, I think, was important. It's still important. And the veterans, like all soldiers, were always valued by society, except United States right now. But in the past, there was, after they were they stopped fighting, they were very, appreciated, because everybody viewed them like, real men. And in a way, it does, I guess something does change in you, and maybe sometimes in a good way, when you go through, so many battles, and you're a hardened veteran, something's kind of an understanding, even maybe a sort of enlightenment, life is so precious and it's so fragile, and it's interesting.
Yeah, but in just general population matters, so many men come back broken, and they're it's true. I mean, the adrenaline rush of fighting for your life or your country or whatever you think you're fighting for, right, is this apex state of awareness, right? And you have to, so you're full on, right? You don't have time to think about other things, which is a good lesson in itself. But because of the destruction, and especially if you've killed people or seen your buddies blown up, they're so broken by that trauma that they actually never really get into a deeper state of being. So it's like a lot of broken people. I mean, and it is an indoctrination. None of that would happen if, from the time they were a child, they weren't brought up to be soldiers. And if you go to Spartacus and all of that, the kids were trained really young. It was all part of who they were. So if that wasn't going on, what would the human be capable of? What other types of expressions may be even more valuable?
Yeah, but in order for that to not happen, society would have to be in a different place.
Yeah.
And we go back to awareness. So.
Mm-hmm. So, once again, it's like you, I, millions, whoever right now is able to attain at least an expanded awareness, like maybe even stepping outside time for a moment and just seeing the whole thing, like what we're talking about. That's part of this changing, or being able to project a different type of consciousness or a higher state or more light, more harmony. And yet I do know that within the physical created realm, duality has to exist. That's how it exists. There has to be two poles, two sexes, two opposite feelings, the famous thing of, what's the, two sides of the coin, but what holds them together?
True. Also, maybe when you're done with physical fighting, that's when the spiritual wars begin, which are in a way even, harder.
Yeah, while we were talking about redemption, there's this flashpoint in my mind of like seeing the battles going on in the unseen or the spiritual realms too. It's all happening. It's not just happening here. And like you said, it's like, well, then what is the enemy then? If it's not the guy on the battlefield with a bazooka or a rifle or whatever, or snipers or whatever the danger we're running through. I like the way you said it, when you're finished with the physical fighting, then what are you dealing with? And so where is the enemy? Who is the enemy? Is there an enemy?
For a time, there is a perceived enemy, like a perceived darkness that you have to overcome. So, but what happens after that?
Yeah, well, it's that,
In the end, you run, you run out of enemies.
Well, then you come to the ultimate. Who is the biggest enemy you have? It's yourself, I mean, that's what you're what you're overcoming, right? All these battles.
But that's the guy that you're fighting on the battlefield. That was you. That was still you.
Yes.
That was the point. So that's why I said I didn't change the subject when talking about. Yeah.
Brain. Okay, I get it, and I agree. And that will become, well, it goes into deeper analysis, right? Of like, how much do you hate yourself to kill another you? Or how much do you not know yourself? Or, yeah, it's
Weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Therefore, followers of the Tao never use them. Arms serve evil. They are the tools of those who oppose wise rule. Use them only as a last resort. For peace and quiet are dearest to the decent man's heart, and to him even a victory is no cause for rejoicing. He who thinks triumph beautiful is one with a will to kill. And one with a will to kill shall never prevail upon the world. It is a good sign when man's higher nature comes forward, a bad sign when his lower nature comes forward. With the slaughter of multitudes we have grief and sorrow. Every victory is a funeral. When you win a war, you celebrate by mourning.
Do you think if you were being physically threatened, like in a serious way, would you fight?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. See, that's innate in us, isn't it?
No, standing up for yourself is different, or for somebody you love, or if you went on the street and you see a girl is being attacked, I mean, you have to stand up for a lot of things, and be ready even to kill. So if that's the only way to defend yourself, I'm okay with that. But that's different. That's not going to war. So
no, and I mean, just like the juxtaposition of what we see on the screen world, right, is how many thousands of people they don't stand for anything, they don't stand for any honor, they don't protect. Matter of fact, I think because they're so what's the right word, I see them like inwardly is like almost demonic, like they get their kicks off of it, and that's the state of I always keep calling it the outer world because I like my inner world, but it's like the screen out there in the world that's like pumping all these images in all the time, people walking by, people getting robbed, beaten, and they don't do anything. They just stare at their phones. That's where
there is also the other, the other half of a situation, like if a guy has a knife and is just robbing one guy and takes his wallet, better not to do anything because you don't want to risk your life for that guy's wallet, right? So you have to always balance things, like you have to risk your life for something. I mean, that guy's wallet is not worth, you putting yourself in danger.
Yeah, well, that comes down to a solid sense of common sense, right? But what I'm talking about are old people getting knocked out of wheelchairs or beat up, or
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
And nobody does anything. They just stand there and watch or turn away. And it's just the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it's the reflection of the world we're living in. But it's only a reflection. Yeah, and it's just crazy. I mean, we could talk about a lot of different things, but I don't think I want to bring everything into this conversation.
I think it's impossible to bring everything.
I know. Well, let me pose a question for you then. Okay, so assuming that everything here is a reflection of something else outside, right? It's a reflection of our consciousness. How powerful do you think pure consciousness can be in moving that or clearing that, or having the projection come in much clearer? Like the reality, like what forms is reality?
Everybody added together, and not just humanity, but other beings, lower and higher, everything together dreams and forms this reality.
Mm-hmm. And so any one individual that reaches a, say, pure state of consciousness
can affect everybody else. Yes, it's a now how much of an effect would that be? It's a different question and a good question, but
Well, here we're talking on Easter Sunday, and the resurrection.
Easter Sunday for you, not for me.
Because it's not Sunday there?
No, because Easter is 1 week later.
Ah, okay. No, I mean, but this particular, like, you know, the 3 days of death and the resurrection of the light and all of that. I mean, that's marked throughout all of time. And yet,
Yeah, that was an initiation, you know.
uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty awesome and did change humanity forever. So, and it only took one guy to do that. So, yeah.
So what if there's 1,000 or 144,000 fellow human beings that can reach that state of illumination?
All at the same time. Yeah.
Right. Or maybe not at the same time, but maybe like notes on a scale. You know, one turns on, another turns on, another turns on.
Oh, like a snowballing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the evolution, that's actually what it does. And we're getting there, but slow, but we're getting there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yet the more one can maintain their own point of awareness within that, I mean, that's all that anyone can do, right? I mean, I have just, I always get very happy when I see somebody even get a small moment of lucidity or something come into them that they hadn't thought before, or they're contemplating deeper. And, you know, and you're right, little by little. It's not, you know, I don't think it's all going to happen all at once. And there's so many, oh God, there's so many charlatans out there. Oh my God.
Yeah. I always think of the fun everybody's having.
You think of the fun they're having?
Don't want to, yeah, everybody has fun, and you don't want to take away from their from their playing their game. So
right. And you know, there's forms of fun that are much more let's say constructive than other types of fun, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but to understand that, you first have to play those brutal forms of fun in order to understand that, hey, maybe I can play different.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these guys that die in Ukraine are going to be on a couch, you know, having a past life regression sometimes in the future, and see the trauma of dying in a trench. Or it's not going to end here, just dying in a trench or in, you know, in a house in Bakhmut. They're going to have to deal with this trauma, and that's maybe how they're going to grow, right?
Well, you could even say apparently so, right? Because that's what they chose. And therefore, that's their choice. As unconscious as that choice may have been, or as indoctrinated as they may have been, or forced as they may have been, that still comes down to that was somehow their sole choice.
But even when they choose this incarnation, maybe they were aware that, I'm going to incarnate here because, look, there is a war coming, and maybe I need that, or maybe I need to make a choice there. And, you know, I mean, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. Or they may not have made a clear conscious choice in that way, right? They may not have.
And that's a choice on itself. Not making a choice is still a choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're playing, like all of us, they're playing a part in the whole. And as tragic and horrible and, you know, as it seems, it's like there's a cause behind all of it. And
but we spoke last time about some of your past lives, and some of them were like not that, bright and sunny. But you wouldn't go back and change anything now, right? If you could, you wouldn't. If you could snap your fingers and not have that lifetime, you wouldn't do that, right?
because that would change everything right now anyways, and I've just taken on my own sense of responsibility. I'm responsible, for all of it, and it's okay. And
Yeah, but
I don't have to be like horrified at myself or because it's all the things we're talking about, Christian. It's all the experiences that, accumulated over whoever knows how long. Or maybe they always were there and I'm just popping into that reality and into that reality. I'm having that experience. I'm having that experience. Right? So no, I wouldn't change it. I don't even think I could, even if I could, I don't think I could.
it was a hypothetical question.
Yeah, there's a lot of hypothetical questions, but overall, like some of the people that I do listen to, there's, I'm going to put it in this words. There's a new song that's starting to be composed or sung, and I do see more and more folks aware of what we're talking about. Like, we're looking at a screen world, and even more now with AI coming in and all of that. It's a screen. It's a screen. And, so how are you going to interact with that? How do you choose to interact with it? How conscious are you of it?
Are you asking me?
Well, I mean, I'm posing it, but yeah, sure, if you want to answer.
I don't. I was thinking like you put it on the ether, like a rhetoric, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how can one answer that?
Well, that's why I posed it sort of as an open question to continue to, have some contemplation on it. Am I to interact with it? No, it's my choice not to. So, and it's not easy because it's so embedded in our view of reality right now. But when I'm out here in the sun and digging in the dirt, I mean, all of that just ceases to exist for me. It doesn't exist. It's not where my thoughts are. It's not where my feelings are. My feelings are much more grounded at the moment. And I'm having fun. Maybe it's a good type of fun.
It is a good type of fun. And I miss, feeling the earth under my bare feet and digging my hands into dirt. So there's something so primal about that.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention the energy you get from doing those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the longer I'm on this little piece of land, the more I, let's say, am part of it, and I'm just tending to my part of it. And so I'm working. I've got this man working here on Saturdays, and I'm going to put in a little piece of grass, not very much, because I want to lay on it. I don't want anything between me and the earth. So that's my project right now.
You think the cats are not going to poop in the grass?
No, they like the dirt. They bury their poop.
The sand, yeah.
The dog might. Yeah. Dogs are not nearly so. But actually, the dog, he's quite amazing. I don't know where he goes, but he goes to the far corners and stuff. So I don't have dog shit laying around.
That's good.
I know. Yeah. Well, as always, so what do you think of the moon? Just go ahead and like say a few things about it, because that's kind of the winding of the topic, and we'll wind it down from there.
I like the moon.
Mm.
I don't have any bad feelings about the moon. I think it's in a way getting the earth to be, more stable kind of place. I mean, I don't even know why I say that, but it acts like a stabilizer for a lot of things. You can think of the physical things like Earth axis, but also spirit from a spiritual point of view. I think it's like a dampening thing.
Well, I mean, they say the moon's a silver light and it's a feminine light. So along that line, it's always going to have a mysterious component to it. I like the moon.
Yeah, and even if it's used, maybe the moon's energy, or I don't know, maybe there are even secret bases on the moon. So, I mean, the moon itself can be used for nefarious purposes, but that doesn't make the moon itself evil. So,
No, well, I tend to look at it when I go out and see it, and I don't see it as a solid rock object at all. I see it as a luminary, and I see it almost in a plasmatic form, like you can almost see through it sometimes. And I mean, you could postulate that there's a lot in the moon, right? I mean, a lot of different influences, and it is important. And so I don't see it as an evil, malevolent, thing that was dragged into our solar system to control us. And yet, in some ways, it does control us. And maybe that's why I was told to swallow the moon or take back the moon, was just like to integrate that body into me, right? So that I'm not like as much under those influences. Or you could actually say, take that light, that deep feminine light, into the own expression of my being. But I know there's something very important about it.
Yeah, one can definitely feel the energy of a full moon, and not just from reading, mythology or whatever other people say. Full moon, a night with a full moon, it's something special and pretty awesome. I always feel like very high energy level whenever there is a full moon. So
yeah, well, part of perhaps the process we're going through is removing from our minds, in a way, or our schooling, or what we've read, or what we were indoctrinated with, the descriptions, the possibilities, and all of that, and just experiencing it. Simply that. People dissect everything down to meaninglessness. You dissect something enough, it becomes meaningless.
Yeah, like the physics obsession with, splitting the matter in smaller and smaller particles, like they have an obsession with that.
Yeah. And then you have to ultimately go, well, they know there's no such thing as even a particle at that level. So there's no splitting of anything. They already know that.
They got stuck, and there is no way, no solution on site in the near future, because I think if you don't bring in spirituality, you're not never going to get unstuck from
Of course.
whatever problems physics has.
Yeah, they'll just write more mathematic equations trying to make up for their errors. And it's just error upon error. So you're right, you
Yeah, they
know.
have these artificial constructs like walls of equations. Like, dude, have to be simple. Come on, I mean,
Exactly. That's what I mean about dissecting something into meaninglessness, right? You know, it just like you miss the point. You miss what you were supposed to learn because in that scientific, you know, mind or
it's like
whatever,
buying
atheist.
an awesome French wine or an awesome Italian wine, and instead of drinking it, you analyze it and get the, chemical composition.
Right.
That's exactly the same thing.
Exactly. Only they've done it on a grand mass scale, and you know, it's like, oh, oh well. It's to laugh at, really. It is. And they think they're so important, right? They think they're so
Yeah.
smart. But they know inside they're not. Because anybody that's really gone that deep into physics experiments and things, they know that.
Actually, the middle level physicians and the early the ones that got off the college, just finished college and whatever, but the older ones and the geniuses and the very experimented ones are very funny, and they're like kind of half enlightened, and they take things easy, and they know they're not that smart, so
yeah, well, that was the whole
and they joke a lot, and they act funny, and they dress funny, and they're like on their field, they're like the most the high authority, but they act like kids, some of them, so that's where, but you have to be in that place to let go and to understand that maybe just maybe you went about it not the wrong way, but there is a more holistic approach. I don't know.
Well, I would say that just like when we go back to the turn of the century with the minds that came on, including Steiner, including Wilhelm Reich, and all the different people that intuitively knew that it was resonance and energy. They knew that was the basis of it, and yet, they were all put down. They were all raided. Their research was taken away. But I feel like that information right now is on the rise again. Like there's all these young people, and not just super young, but young and youngish people that are resurrecting this. And that's I love it. I mean, that kind of excites me. That's why I'm doing electroculture, because it's, that beam of light I sent you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just taking some photos for Claudia, and I captured that beam of light, and where it's coming down is right where I put the rod. And I can't say that that's proof of anything, but it's like something wanted to show me something, whatever I've never had a ray of white light like that come off on a camera. So whatever, people say, I mean, whatever. For me, it was showing me something. So, and that's what's happening, and that's all the people that are doing this work right now, and they're growing food, and they're, having a good, clean fun, and it's like that's the rise of this consciousness. And I think Steiner said it, that it would come back, that it would be, it would be put down, but it would rise again, because it's the truth. It's how everything operates here.
Yeah, he wasn't the only one that said that.
Oh, no. It's just like these days when I listen to people saying the same thing in many different words, just like back then, people were explaining their insights through their own work. And none of them are exact replicas, which is beautiful. They're not replicas of other people's work. These were deep individuals that, like Walter Russell, you know. So that's for me where truth just keeps, it has to line up in something really simple. And it is. It's so damn simple that almost everybody misses it.
There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. For lack of a better name, I call it the Tao.